The Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks podcast, Series 2, AI in the AECO and Beyond, is brought to you by OQULi. OQULi, bridging the intangible. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks. Believe it or not, we made it to a second series. In Series 2, we're going to be focused on the wonderful world of AI and what it can do in the AECO and beyond. So for our first episode in the series, we've got not one, but two great guests, Dennis and Paige. So before we hop into the world of AI and what it can do in the AECO, let's take a second to give you your soapbox to introduce yourself. So Dennis, why don't you go first?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Dennis Dixon. I'm one of the co-founders here at OQULi. I've been in the AECO realm for a while and bumped into Carl Storms here in numerous different conferences, whether it be in the big old Autodesk world, built wherever. Been all over North America teaching things like Dynamo and Revit. And now here we are creating the software that we always used. And here we are.
Nice. Paige.
Yeah, so I'm Paige Reiche. I'm the other co-founder of OQULi. And I actually met Carl at New York Build, I believe it was called, earlier this year. And we chatted and yeah, here we are. Obviously, there's a mutual connection through Dennis. And yeah, a little bit about me, I guess. I'm an architectural designer. And me and Dennis have been working together recently for building OQULi and specifically targeting AI and AECO, if you want to include operations as well. So yeah. That's it.
Awesome. And I guess this is a good time to mention, although if you're listening, you already heard, but the OQULi folks have been gracious enough to sponsor this entire series. So that is awesome. But what we're here to talk about today is not only the architectural engineers constructions and those pesky owners and operators, if we add that O on there, but really just generally about AI in the world and what it has become and what it's going to do for us here that are in the AECO industry. And one of the things that I really noticed sort of looking at your website and having a look is if I pull up the LinkedIn profile when it goes to the about for OQULi, it says the first choose your own adventure software fleet that allows the design, construction, and manufacturing community to navigate and create their tools. And I kind of thought that was great because a lot of the things that we do here on Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks, and as the name kind of implies, is a lot of people that you will find in this community of the AECO. We're always sort of tinkering, we're always finding things. I like to use the term sort of makers. And we've talked about 3D printers, we've talked about virtual programming with things like Dynamo. And so the idea that you guys can tap into AI and kind of the choose your own adventure motif truly fascinates me. So I'm just going to leave that out there and see who wants to grab that first.
Yeah, definitely. This was kind of a brainchild of the both of us. We grew up playing video games and had a blast, playing things around the house and doing things that just made us genuinely happy. And we found that when you open up the doors to an evolution of any sort, it causes people to basically come together and work as a team. So one common aspect to that was our skill tree and basically providing a platform for people to work together and grow together and create tools that they can choose the direction for. And Paige, I mean, you had some really great ideas putting in towards this skill tree and how we can expand our offerings, and the two of us have just been really knocking it out of the park here.
Yeah. So instead of like a typical roadmap of a software, it's the skill tree is replacing that, but making it way more fun by having maybe gaming competitions where people actually can come out and have like a social aspect to being involved in a software's story. And we even have Cody as our little mascot, and he's going to evolve. So it's just a really fun way to approach software in general, but also specifically for this industry. Architecture is pretty dull in the office, to be honest. So it's a way to just bring everyone together, not even like within one firm too. It's just like, industry wide. So we're really excited to see where we can take this.
So kind of the idea there, you mentioned having people come together and work with the tree structure. What did you call it? The code tree? No, that
The
wasn't it.
skill tree.
Skill
Skill
tree.
tree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Skill tree. It kind of almost sounds like the idea of like a hackathon, or we're crowdsourcing. We're having people that have the idea. So, well, I think that's a great idea. What about for those people that maybe are a little leery of, I'm not a computer designer. I'm not a computer engineer. I don't know how to code. I don't know any of that stuff. How does that play into it? And I have a feeling this is where AI comes to the equation, but maybe I shouldn't put words in your mouth.
Yeah, so if you are wanting to still be involved in where a software goes, or want to give ideas for tools that you need, you have multiple ways to do that. So instead of just, submitting an email to a big company and it gets lost and you never hear about it ever again, we're really trying to make the whole process interactive. So anyone can either what we call a boost. So they can boost either through applying funds to whatever skill they want. They can join the forum, talk about that amongst the community. They can also sign up for beta potentially. There's lots of ways that they can join in. And I mentioned, doing public events and things like that. So there's also that too. There'll be lots of different ways to contribute. So anyone who's maybe not as tech savvy or isn't into gaming specifically, there's still a place for them.
Yeah. And on top of that too, I mean, the software side of it, aside, the AI tools that are out there are all in the background helping us in taking this information and making it more palpable. So, I mean, even AI on a day-to-day use, I asked it, was like, you know what? Carl Storms has a really great introduction. And I thought it would be cool to see if AI can improve on it. And let's just say it's a little faulty, but this is what it came up with. Yeah. I think it missed the target a little bit. I kind of gave it a bio, but it just decided to repeat your name over and over again. And I can send you the audio so you can put that on loudspeaker. That's yeah. But the AI tools are actually quite helpful sometimes. And yeah, you can find them pretty useful in other ways. But
I do get lots of compliments or people saying that Storms is a great last name. So AI is just jumping on that bandwagon and just, when something's good, you just repeat it, right?
yeah, I know it's funny because I started going off on a tangent and I was like, all right, well, let's take the bio and turn it into a rap. And there's a rap as well. There's Carl Storm's images. I can send a few over to you if you like. Oh, I went a little bit too far down the rabbit hole. So
Weird things happen for sure, and it's always when you do that with what AI does, or just the search is crazy nowadays, and you type something in and you get a result that either puts you in the limelight or something like your name being repeated several different times. It certainly gives you a bit of a throwback. But I think what we learn from that is a couple things. One, it's always good to do it in a light that's a bit humorous, because then nobody's offended. Everybody sort of chuckles. Everybody kind of gets a little tee hee out of the outcome. But then you think, okay, that's not exactly what I wanted. What I wanted was, a professional bio or a semi-professional bio or whatever that might be. And then that teaches the user that it's okay to question the AI. That's not what I wanted, but to learn to be able to actually tell the AI that. Yes, it's not a sentient being. Yes, it's not going to take over the world, but it does actually learn from you prompting and sort of pointing it in the right direction. And if you keep pointing it into the direction that you want, you're going to get better and better results back. So at the same time, we as the humans are getting better at just generally communicating, even though it's just this machine that we're talking to give us a better rap about a name. Over time, we improve how to ask that question, which improves the output, which again makes us better communicators. Full circle moment here.
It really is. Yeah. No, and it's really cool how that works because, prime example right now, you get hung up on a thought, you are trying to really hammer down something that's coming out of a thought and get it onto paper. And there are a lot of people out there who are scared to take advantage of these AI tools. And those types of AI tools can really help take a basic thing like, what is a see-through object that holds water that I can use from the day-to-day life? And you're just, I really cannot get that on paper. And it's like, you're talking about glass, right? Like those types of things where it can compile information and form it. So it's a very helpful tool.
Well, very similar to you're talking about glass, is that sometimes it may come up with a completely different answer. And the idea of being able to have that thought in your head of what's the best way to the best way to describe glass, but if it comes up with something completely different, oh, that's a vessel. You think, oh, well, I didn't think of that, and well, we call it a vessel, and and you go off on a complete tangent. And I found that sometimes if you're using whatever it might be, Chat GPT or Copilot or Pi or your method of choice, is that if you get stuck on a thought or a problem or it just keeps giving you the same output, you can either try a completely new chat, so just like cleaning the cache, or just go to a different version of it. And you'd be surprised when it changes the answer, because over the course of that conversation you've had with whatever AI are using, you've again come down, well, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. So when you start that new chat, you get a completely different output because you have also, God, not a lot of words coming out good this morning. You have also had this conversation yourself, so you're changing your own opinion. So it's those little things that you learn from the AI about yourself, and I don't mean you're learning about yourself, but how to interact with it, and it makes you better at that, and you get better outcomes. The better you are asking the question, the better outcomes you get from the AI.
Yeah, I've noticed that with myself recently, actually. I feel like for a long time, I was just, when I was using ChatGPT, for example, just being very like too succinct almost and getting also succinct like answers, like not quite what I was looking for. And then I think in the last like month or so, I've definitely been more prompty, if you will, but putting way more effort into, my prompts and such. And it just gives you such a better response. And I always ask it for options, like especially when it comes to like marketing stuff, always asking for multiple iterations because it always pulls up words that you may not even think to use. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
it just more using it. They use prompt engineering, or I'm not sure that engineering is the right word, but that's what they use. But you'll find that as you do it, you can find little things that work for you, so you can say or do what you want. But one of the things that I recently found that was game changing is, for whatever reason, whenever I'm using it, it always uses the word delve all the time, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever said the word delve, but in all the responses. And then I was watching a clip, I think on Reels or something. I said, well, just prompt it what you want, but say do not include, and include the word you don't want it to say. Game changer, because now
Yeah.
delve no longer comes up, and it makes life so much easier because now it's learning your voice, your tone. And some of the applications out there, one that I've used is called Copy, just like copy but with an I instead of a Y. You can build in your brand into what you're doing, and it remembers that every time it does that. So very similar. I don't want to use the word delve, so it doesn't use it. So it changes its outputs based on your criteria. So again, just learning how the process works, I think, it makes a big difference with how things come. And again, it's learning as we go through this technology. Well, not new, is new to a lot of us, and learning how to use it is. I'm trying to find a way to
Yeah.
work delve into this conversation right
Yeah. I got to delve deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh
actually
man.
started doing that too recently, just excluding the words I absolutely hate because it always pops up the same things. And even the way it formats, I noticed they use a lot of ellipses, I think they're called, like the two
Mhm.
dots.
Yep.
And like in the middle of a headline or the middle of a sentence, it'll just use that. And it's not really like proper, like how people talk or read. So yeah, certain things like that, I've been adding that in lately, actually.
But that's the other thing too, is about one thing we find when you're training an assistant or a model or an API in any sort, and you train in a certain way with a certain group of people, and that group of people may use it similarly, and you start training it, but the way, even within that group of people, there's every individual wants to receive their information differently. And that comes down to refinement, but that refinement can end up launching itself over to another individual somewhere else. Like, so you have to be very specific as to who and how that format gets presented to. And it really is a herding cattle initiative, because you have to find that balance in terms of where you want an answer to sit at its root, and then after that allow for that room for refinement to each individual user.
Well, and I think you find that there's, if you if you ask someone that question and they're programming, a chatbot for the website, and you want it to, give canned answers or answers in a relative vein or style based on your product, you would instruct it one way. But for yourself wanting to have a conversation to learn something, you would instruct it a different way. And it's that whole sort of mentality of, do I want this to be a conversation? Which, on a side note to my side note, I think with the new versions where you can like talk to the AI, the conversation becomes much more iterative, because you're less worried about what you're typing. You're just actually having a conversation. And that's one of the biggest things that I've also found, aside from telling it not to tell me to say delve, is when you have a conversational nature with it, you get back more what you are expecting. Wow, that was a big rabbit hole, but I think we got the gist there.
But yeah, I agree, because you can set the tone, right? And you generally want the response to be in your tone, whatever, and that changes obviously depending on what the task is. Like you were saying, sometimes you want it to be more conversational, sometimes you want it to be more formal, and you can obviously type that into your prompt, but I think the voice really captures that much better.
Definitely. Yeah, and I mean, that's a big portion of AI right now, because it's what the comfort level lies currently right now with the chat function. So the chat function, I would say, is starting to gain more traction with common ground amongst consumers and just day-to-day life. I'm even finding that my sisters, my people in my close family are starting to use it, probably more for comical reasons than anything, but it's, they're starting to get out of the gimmick side and start to use it for other aspects. And being that my sister is actually in the education stream, that's completely uprooted everything for them. They've had to change absolutely everything in terms of how they receive and provide input and output. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So speaking of, different ways of using it, everyone's starting to become comfortable with the chat functionality. Bringing it back to the AECO industry in AI, what are some of the functionalities or some of the things that AI can assist with that you don't think I mean, I know it's new everywhere, but what are some of the things that you think we could start taking advantage of now, aside from just simple chat functionality with AI?
There's a large
Gosh, there's
number.
so much. Yeah, it's a loaded question. I mean, for starters, definitely I feel like there's a lot out there already kind of approaching this, but there's a lot of, I guess, AI assistants for creating floor plans. I've tried a couple. They need work, but they place doors or they don't place doors, and they have weird layouts that don't quite make sense. But, there's so many aspects of where AI could really assist. It could assist with design, but I feel like that's most people, or architects specifically, that's their favorite part of their
Yeah.
job. So I don't necessarily know if they need AI for that. I think what the more important part would be compliance, spec writing, things like that, that not everybody loves to do. And it's the same thing over and over again. It's really like we've done so many buildings over the course of like 1,000 years, even in the last like 20 years, like everything, it hasn't changed too much, really. You know, we have the details already. We have all of these drawings that have already been had hours spent on. There's got to be a faster way to get to like a permanent set of drawings or construction set of drawings than what we're currently doing. So there's just that's like the nutshell, but obviously there's so many working parts within getting there.
Yeah. And even if you like on LinkedIn, there's an individual on there and his AI and AEC is broken down close to well over 900 applications for the AEC world right now. That is all specifically AI. And a lot of those based around, again, you know, GANs type floor plan sort of, or GANs type floor plan setups, rendering tools, lots of rendering tools. I can name drop a bunch, but the list will break it all down. There's way too many to name, but one of the biggest helps for us in the AEC industry is just getting rid of the monotonous tasks so that we can focus on the things that really matter. And we had a chat at Dexel Architecture about how can we utilize AI to give us more freedom to do the design work. And a lot of that had to do with compliance. We want to be able to just design and not have to worry about, you know, a wall being 2 inches into a corridor width that we didn't notice at the time. Like we want to be able to have that just, you know, oh, hey, you know, those sort of things shouldn't be happening. You know, if you follow this sort of thing, this is what should be happening next. Like stuff like that. Yeah.
Are you talking about a Clippy for compliance?
Essentially. let's
But
not
less
get the
annoying.
Clippy involved here. Yeah. I don't want to start triggering your watchers here and your listeners.
But yeah, I think I mean, especially on the design side, everyone gets into that realm because they want to design, not because they want to spend hours going through code documents and finding out what's changed from the previous version to the new version. So being able to use AI, and that's one of the things that it's good at that I think we're underutilizing. And I think some of that's because it usually involves a paid version of the platform, but you know, taking a PDF and having it summarized for you, or bringing a bunch of codes and having it tell you what you need from that information. I think that's what we need. We need to get to something quickly so we can make a decision. Can this door be here, or do I have to move it 3 inches while you're in that design mindset, not to get out of the design mindset, spend 3 hours reviewing code and then be completely in a different spot when you come back to design that building. I think that's exactly what, you know, we're looking for, especially on the design side.
Yeah, definitely. And one of even just the smallest thing of what we're doing right now and having an AI recorder coming in and summarizing portions of meetings I cannot focus in a meeting if I have to write things down, and everything gets forgotten down the line. It's just not everything, but like my notes aren't clean, and AI has saved the entire planet in terms of Dennis Dixon's writing skills. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah, huge help.
Well, I think the other thing that we're finding with these recordings for recording meetings, recording podcasts, whatever, it's not only the ability to summarize this meeting, which is helpful, but imagine over the life of a 5-year construction project. We've all been recording these virtual meetings for many years now, and it's great to know that if I need to go back and find something, I have that recording. But nobody goes back to 3 years ago and watches that hour-long meeting. It just doesn't happen. But now with this AI, where we can say, okay, I know there was a meeting fall 2022 where we talked about compliance of this. What did we say? Boom. It finds it, it pulls it up, it points you to it. That's going to be the game changer. The problem, and problem's probably the wrong word, is that we don't have enough data yet. Like we don't have that storage because we haven't started doing that. So we're really going to see these benefits, X years from now. But it's staying on the train long enough to get to that, to see the good data that we're able to dive into and get the good results. We don't want people to say, oh, this is garbage and leave early. You got to stick around for the end, for Act 3. And I think that might be the hard part, to get people to stick around.
Yeah. To your point about when our whole core belief is that the community coming together and pooling their ideas together, it actually created a conversation amongst us about, do we need folders And do we need files and structures for everything? Can we just dump it literally into a pool, unorganized, and allow AI to just pull it from us? Like, we look at typical UIs to our software that we use, strip it all down and have a search bar and say, you know, draw a line, draw this, do whatever, and have it as a partner, as a companion. And it really comes down to that, like, it changes the way we work. So it's an interesting way. But if you think about it, do we actually need to have order, or can the chaos be picked away at by AI? So
Yes, we need order. If I look behind that door and don't see folders, I'm in trouble. So as long as I keep the door closed and AI tells me what I need to do, I'm fine. But if I open that door and see no folders, oh boy.
Yeah, I get it. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, lots of great things. I spend a lot of time putting things into their neat little order. And as BIM managers and BIM savants in the C world, we can all appreciate a good prefix. So
Well, and think about it though, if that's true, and if we get to that, we no longer have to have all these little shortcuts and these things to create this template of 500 different folders that I have that I start every product and whatever project I'm using. If again, we can just have project name, here's a big bucket, put everything in the bucket, and when you need it, your little assistant will go and find it. And that's not Clippy.
exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing too. We've been looking at it saying, one of the things that really helps out tools like OpenAI and the GPTs of the world is organized data, and organized and cared for data that can be easily searched and easily found. We have a different perspective on it. And we believe that when you have a conversation like we're having right now, it's ad hoc, and it has, we're reacting to how each other speak. It's no different than documents. An individual has a individualized approach to writing a document. And that could be even to the point of code. Different hundreds of codes throughout the planet, they're all written differently. They have different approaches to how they're done. So why train an AI on a specific way to look through things? Why don't we train it on how to be more flexible and adapt? And that's kind of our focus, is to work on uncleaned data and allow it to be more responsive that way.
I think that mindset or that philosophy makes it more attainable, because people may think or want to say they have clean data, but they know they don't. It's back to the days of DWGs, and nobody wants to hand them over, because when you open that drawing, it's not a sheet, it's just chaos of everything all over the model. So I can imagine the problems we have now with getting people to hand over their models or their files because of the IP. They're like, this is mine, but I want the AI to be as good as possible and be trained on all of your data. That's fine. All of that data is great, but you can't have mine. So that's going to be the next war that we're going to wage, is that we want it to be responsive and answer the questions the way we want, but we don't want it to do it, we don't want it in my backyard. So how do we do that? I mean, we saw all the fuss the last couple of days about Microsoft's recall and how it's going to take screenshots of everything you do on your computer. And no, I don't want that.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I wish them luck in that regard. That was like when a while back, they did the AI facial recognition in malls, and they did a test run and didn't tell anyone. And they all of a sudden were like, what? My face is in that software and it's shared publicly. Yeah. So it's tricky. It is tricky, but that's the only way it'll actually, I think, feasibly work. To make it, if you create it too specific, let's say, for instance, you train it around a government model, the government model, they require you to hand it in a very specific format. You train it around that. The second you bring it into in-house standards and you need that design and creative freedom, it falls apart because it becomes too technical and you want to be more freeform. So yeah.
Nope, that makes sense. But at the same time, I guess it's the idea of these things like the recall or Google's latest faux pas where it's giving false answers because you have to release it in the world and let it try. But these things that aren't acceptable or that we don't like or perhaps gone wrong leads to fixes to make it better. Everyone does Google Streets, but they've put information in the software now that automatically blurs out people's faces, it blurs out addresses, so all this safety stuff comes in automatically, and that it doesn't become something that needs to be corrected until we know it needs to be corrected. And to do that, we have to test it. So it's that that catch-22 scenario.
Yeah. Is it true that those reCAPTCHAs that you use online are actually telling Google that that's a bike and that's a thing? Like, somebody was telling me that reCAPTCHA is actually used to, say this, pick all the bikes in this thing, and then it's actually, yeah, we're actually telling you that.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that it's training, because what you're doing has nothing to do with why it's taking time to let you in. They're completely separate from each other. It's checking your history. It does nothing to do with that. You're actually buying time by doing that. So it wouldn't surprise me that it's actually training. It's serving dual purpose, because you've seen all the new CAPTCHAs that have nothing to do with it. It's like, there's 3 things in the sandbox. Which one looks like a cat? You have to pick that. It has nothing to do with it. But.
Yeah, well, joke's on you. I've misclicked those like 20 times. So
see, you're why we get bad data. All right, so we're having a great conversation. I hate to end it, but we got to sort of try to stick to our lovely 30-minute scenario. That's the perfect amount of time to listen to a podcast while you're on an exercise bike or going to work or what have you. But before we end, I always like to ask our guests, what is their hack? So in this case, just a general AI hack. Dennis, you went first at the beginning, so Paige, I'll hand it over to you. What's your hack of the episode?
Yeah, so when I'm communicating with my team, I always record Loom videos, and it's just the easiest way to communicate what I'm doing without having to type a huge email. So I'll record myself, but I'm not always the best speaker. I say a lot, or I just don't say anything. There's just silences while I'm thinking. So Loom is awesome because they have this new AI tool where it just removes all your silences and all your filler words as well. So it just shortens the video. You don't have to edit yourself. If I do, it's very minimal and it's done within seconds, and I can just send it off to whoever I need to.
Very cool. I've heard of Loom, but I didn't heard of that feature. I use a very similar feature in Descript, which I use to actually edit these podcasts, which will do the same thing. It will take out all my ums and ahs. So awesome. Dennis.
Mine's more well known in terms of the chat. I use it for refinement. So what I find is, if I know I'm going into a meeting and that meeting has a very specific group of individuals that I want to cater a conversation to, I'll take all of my meeting notes that I'm looking for, I'll compile it into a GPT, and then I'll ask it, can you refine this to have more impact? Can you refine this so that I'm looking to make it so that this is for a pitch? Or can you make it so that I'm speaking to a 5-year-old kindergarten group so I can tell them what AI is? So in terms of hacks, like, take all the information you have in a Word document before a meeting, and then ask it to refine it in a way that makes sense. And then obviously do your tweaks as what you need to.
Well, I like that. I've used that, but not in the scenario of before going into something. It's always if I'm typing something or putting something together, but I like the idea of refinement. All right. So now that we've got a couple hacks and we've come to the end of the episode, it's time to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks, where we explore the tools, techniques, and time-saving hacks that are shaping the future. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. There's a button down here somewhere. And stay tuned for more insights into the exciting world of AECO and technology. Until next time, keep building, innovating, and exploring the possibilities.